Follow Paddy Power on Snapchat. The username is ThePaddyPower, and we promise there won't be any boring snaps about gigs, the weather, or the gym.
Hello and welcome to this Monday Postcast. I'm Maddie Plale, joined in the studio by James Hill, and we also have Tom Siegel and Tom Nugent from Paddy Power on the line as well. First off, Jimmy, good weekend?
Yeah, very nice. I didn't do too much, certainly not yesterday because the weather was awful, but nice relaxing time. Back at work now. Yeah.
Still ploughing on. Tom, give us a cricket update. I can't, Tom Siegel I can't promise to be as well versed as Watsy, but come on, I've got to try, haven't I?
Oh, we lost. It's this week though, Maddie. It's the test match in Hampshire. I'm going 2 days. I'm going on Thursday and on Sunday. I'm really looking forward to it. It's down by my neck of the woods, so cannot wait.
That sounds exciting for someone
Not for
who
you,
likes
clearly.
Cricket. Yeah, well, I can pretend, can't I?
Yeah, pretend.
And Tom, we were just talking before we went on air about the jump season. I can't wait. I've had enough of this flat for now. How's your lot back at home, your little breeding operation going?
Grand. And as we said off air as well, they're all for sale, Maddie. So anyone who's interested in buying a leg event can always give us a ring there anytime.
And Black Bow, he's back galloping now, is he?
Yeah, he's back in. I think he went in there about 2 weeks ago. I was talking to Patrick. So, yeah, they're looking forward to a good season. Not sure what the plan is with him, but yeah, all is going according to plan at the moment.
Very, very exciting. So we'll kick on with the show and review the York Ebor Festival. First off, Roaring Lion's win in the Juddmonte. Jimmy, he was pretty exceptional, wasn't he?
He was excellent, yeah. Top class performance from a top class 3-year-old. One or two people have said it was a race of the season. I'm not sure it was as good as that. Poet's Word didn't really get the run of the race. The third horse, he was only rated 109. But very good performance from Roaring Lion. He's got a tremendous turn of foot. I mean, pretty rare to see a turn of foot like that. And he had his ideal conditions, the right distance, right sort of track. He seems to be very good over these flat courses. And I think he could get another Group 1 before the end of the season's up. Irish Champion Stakes would be a great opportunity for him.
Okie dokie. Tom, what did you make of the team tactics? You must have been a bit annoyed if you're on Poet's Word.
Yeah, a little bit. York's a bit like that though, Maddie. I mean, we'll talk about the Ebor later, but they switch around the tracks, don't they? I think the point is that jockeys try and avoid getting in trouble. York used to be when I was young, which is a long time ago now, York used to be a notoriously difficult track to ride because they'd all pile onto the far rail. So what they did is they spread out to give everyone a chance. But unfortunately for James Doyle, they spread out too far, didn't they? And cut him out. I don't think it was any deliberate policy on anyone's part. I think that's just the way the race went. It was a bit unfortunate, but I think the best horse won anyway. So I don't think it would have come any. I mean, it might have been a couple of lengths closer, but I don't think it was going to beat Roaring Lion. So all's good.
Yeah, all's well that ends well. And Tom Nugent, how is he now in the betting for the Champions Stakes? Jimmy mentioned the Irish version, but I presume both he could go to?
Yeah, we gave a quote for the Champions Stakes just as they crossed the line. He went in 15-8 favourite from 5-1 for the Champions Stakes at Ashcott. And then the Irish Champions Stakes, he was first show 6-4 favourite, and that's been taken up, and it's now a 5-4 shot Roaring Line for the Irish Champions Stakes, 7-2 bar.
Okie dokie. Some conversation going around yesterday about Alpha Centauri and how they'd both compare over 10 furlongs. Jimmy, what do you reckon? Whose side would you be on?
Ooh, interesting. The way Alpha Centauri races, I mean, you wouldn't say she wouldn't, get a stiff mile and a quarter. Roaring Lion has looked very impressive on these sort of flat tracks when he's got decent ground. So I'd probably just about side with him, but it'd be an interesting matchup.
I was surprised with how many people sided with the filly, because I think I'd be on Roaring Lion's side too. Tom?
It's a hard one. I don't think it'll ever happen. I thought Roaring Lion might be a candidate for the Breeders' Cup Classic, Maddie. I know I'm not a Breeders' Cup fan very much, but he's all American dirt breeding. He's by Kitten's Joy out of a Street Sense mare. That's all dirt breeding, really. So I'd be very surprised if that wasn't his end of season target. Not that I will know any of the horses he's running against, but I thought that was quite an interesting angle. But personally, I think he'll win those races. I think soft ground would be a worry for him if it came up at Ascot, and I doubt he'd run, to be honest. I think John Gosden has plans maybe to run Cracksman back in that after the Arc. I think there's 2 weeks in between. So if it turned up soft there, I doubt we'd see Roaring Lion there, and I'd expect to see him in America.
Okie dokie. And a final word from you, Tom Nugent. Whose side would you be on, Alpha Centauri or Roaring Lion?
Roaring Lion just. I hope to God he comes to Leopardstown. I really would like to see him in the flesh. We've a great weekend lined up, especially if Alpha Centauri takes her place in the Matron Stakes as well. But I think over 10 furlongs I'd side with Roaring Lion.
Okie dokie. All in agreement then. Moving on to the St Ledger picture, which, I don't know, did it get clearer? Did it get more murky with Old Persian's win in the Great Voltager? Kew Gardens a big eye catcher in that race. Give us an update on how they bet, Tom.
Yeah, we had a lot of changes to the ledger market over the weekend. Lati Dar is actually the favourite at 2-1 at the moment. Kew Gardens next in 5-2. Old Persian 7-1. Wells Fargo alongside Forever Together and La Trobe 10-1. The three of those. 12-1 Southern France, and there's 14-1 Bar.
And whose side would you be with going to the St Ledger at this stage?
Personally, I'd be very, very interested, and I'll ask you lot as kind of guardians of British racing. Any word on Mildenberger?
Ooh, that's a left field one. I'm not too sure myself.
Same connections as DXB, isn't it?
So he's missed. They were talking about going to Grand Prix de Paris, and he obviously missed that again. But I don't know, is he just kind of done for the season? I'd be very interested to know if he's fit and on target for the Ledger, or if he's going to run. Or
Tommy Boy's got to be a million, hasn't he? I mean, Mark Johnson. It's a Mark Johnson, isn't it? I mean, he would have been out. He's obviously had serious problems. I think he's very, very unlikely to get there. I'm pretty sure DXB's their one for the Ledger.
Maybe so. I just thought he'd be interesting if he was fit. The quotes weren't that negative from Charlie Johnson the last day. They said the problem wasn't that bad, but
yeah,
I'd be interested to see the runs.
I know. Pal works down there, and he's always banging on about Mildenberger, but I don't. It'd be a long shot, wouldn't it? Now it's very unlike Mark Johnson's CV to have him. I mean, where's he going to run? He's going to have to run somewhere. He's not. I doubt very much he'd go straight to the Ledger. What
did you make of the Great Voltager, Tom?
I thought it was okay. I thought Kew Gardens was probably the one to take out of it. I personally thought Lati Dar's performance was better. I don't see Old Persian as a St Ledger winner. I think of that race, Kew Gardens. I certainly wouldn't rule out Wells Fargo from that race. I think he's drifting out to a backable price now at 61. I think the key's soft ground. It clearly is. I mean, the ground was way too quick for him. I think if you got really soft ground and a proper test of stamina, problem for him is he's too keen when horses take him on. If he can get an easy lead, I think he'd almost win the Ledger. I really do, because I think.
Is he guaranteed to get an easy lead if O'Brien fires in some pace?
That's the point. That's the whole point. He's going to have. I would imagine there'll be 2 or 3 O'Brien horses in there to make sure it's a strong pace for Kew Gardens. That seems to be his MO, isn't it? His way of running. So I think that's going to be the problem. But if it turned up soft on the day, you'd be worried about Kew Gardens on very soft ground. Lati Dar, stamina, however she looked, I'm not convinced she's still got to prove it's mile and 6 if it was soft ground. I mean, Frankie seems to think she's certain to stay.
I thought it was a bit of an odd target myself when they mentioned the St Ledger. I was surprised they weren't going somewhere else.
Well, it's a classic, and where you mean she could go to Champions Day, but she can still go to Champions Day afterwards, aren't there? Lots of horses have gone from the St Ledger to Champions Day. The only other option would be the Art, but I think it's probably the right one. I think soft ground wouldn't be a problem. Just pedigree would slightly worry him. He's had a Dar-Amy, isn't she? So that sort of 1.25 miles Dubawi, Dar-Amy, that's sort of 1.25 miles pedigree. Will she get 1.6 miles? She looks like she will but then we all thought Lawrence was going to get the trip, didn't we, the other day? And she didn't. You'll probably know more about that than me, Maddie, but she certainly didn't get the trip, did she? When she looked like she'd stay 1.5 miles. So the jury's out a bit for me on the first 3 or 4 in the Ledger mark. I think there might be sort of a left field horse in there.
Okay. Jimmy, what did you make of the Great Voltager?
Oh, I thought it was a good running. Running a good time. I was impressed with the winner, Mads, personally. I thought, he did really well giving weight to his stablemate who had the favoured standside rail. I don't think he was by any means all out to win it, actually. I thought he had a little bit left. And it's just a question of whether has the ability to stay the distance. If stamina is an issue, then obviously I can't see him winning, but 7-1 on the back of that performance, I think it's quite good value because he's beaten Kew Gardens already. I know he was getting a bit of weight from Kew Gardens, but I don't see any reason why Kew Gardens would turn the form around of him, providing he got the trip.
I think he was ridden a bit like a second string as well, and perhaps they were a bit surprised with how well Old Persian did. So maybe
he was up. He was up there with the pace all the way, and it was a strong pace.
Yeah,
fast ground is obviously key to him as well.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. We've mentioned Lati Dar, but we haven't mentioned Sea of Classes win. Which of those were you more impressed with? Sea of Class, there was more substance to that win, but as Tom's already mentioned, Latidar, she was deeply impressive. Jimmy, looking forward to the Arc, who would be on your radar out of those two?
Sea of Class was hugely impressive, I thought. Oh, Latidar was as well, but Sea of Class, to do that to top-class fillies. Curragh had just finished third in the King George, and I mean, she just went past her like she was standing still. She's got a lovely cruising speed, tremendous turn of foot. I mean, if they got good ground or fast ground in the Arc, she'd have to be on your radar. Latidar, I mean, couldn't have been more impressive, winning by 10 lengths. But the quality of opposition she was up against wasn't great. So, I mean, you know, if you're talking about her being a Group 1 filly, I think, you know, she had to do what she did really, because I mean the second horse was only rated 93. The sixth horse I think was only about 4.5 lengths back from the runner-up. That's only about an 85 rated filly. So it was an average race really. She was very impressive, but I think she had to be.
I agree. Maybe that's just me being pessimistic, but I think, you know, she's still got a big step up to make. How do they bet for the Arc now, Tom Nugent? Can we have a full call of all the main protagonists?
You can indeed. Enable is our 9-2 favourite still for the Arc. Second fav is joint fav. Sorry, Sea Class 9-2. She's in from 12-1 after her win in the Yorkshire Oaks. Cracksman third favourite 6-1. Latidar 7-1 alongside Crystal Ocean. Poet's Word 8s 10-1. Roaring Lion 16-1. Wild Geese and 20-1 Barlows.
Fabulous. Who wins the Arc then, Tom Nugent?
I would absolutely love to see Sea Class win it. Now, there is a recency bias is going to lead us to talking about her more than any other horse in the race. But for me, her two performances in the Curragh and the last day have been two of the highlights of the season for me. For James Doyle to not pick up a stick, just sit and wait and have so much confidence in her, and just she breezed through. I think Jimmy made the key point there. She just breezed past a really, really top class field, and she's been the highlight of the flat season for me. I've really, really enjoyed watching her run, particularly the last twice.
Yeah, great to see. And of course, fillies have such a good record in the Arc. The last 10 years, 7 females have won. 4 of those were 3-year-olds. So it's clearly a race that suits them. Yeah,
they get a lot of weight, Maddie. 3-year-old fillies carry 8 stone 9 in the Arc. 3-year-old colts carry 8-13, and older horses carry 9-5. So 3-year-old fillies get a lot of weight.
So Tom, reaction on Sea of Class then? You couldn't help but be impressed, could you?
Me? This
yes,
Tom?
You. This Tom.
Yeah, well, she's very good, isn't she? She's very good. I don't think she likes soft ground at all. That would be my big worry for her. I think she'd hate that, is my personal opinion. I personally think she has got plenty more to prove than the boys think. I didn't think...
You're not that impressed?
I'm very impressed, but I think I'm much more impressed with Enable. I can assure you of that. I mean, I think she was an absolute wonder filly. Now, if we're obviously don't know what's going to happen with Enable, but John Gosden again proved himself to be the superstar, probably the best trainer in the world, in my opinion. And if anyone's going to bring her back, he'll bring her back. I think the vibes are getting pretty strong about her. And if Sea of Class going to be Enable come Arc Day, I will bow down to all you lot and say you were spot on about Sea of Class. I was wrong again, but I think she's got plenty to do to beat Enable, in my opinion.
Okie dokie. Enable will surely see soon at Kempton in the September Stakes. I believe that's the current plan. More of Ebor reflections just after this.
Success ain't earned, it's bought. That's why at Paddy Power, we paid the big bucks for the best tech nerds in the world to develop our new, fastest ever app. Download the new app from the App Store or Play Store now. 18+, begambleaware.org.
Welcome back to this Monday Postcast, and we're going to review the rest of York's Ebor meeting. First off, Stradivarius. He didn't make it look pretty, but he got the job done, Jimmy.
Yeah, no, he's been fabulous all season, so consistent. Like you said, he wasn't at his best, ran a bit flat, but he just sticks his neck out, gutses it out, and he was able to get on top of Count Octave in the end. Generally, the summer's gone well for him because he's had his conditions. I don't think he's as good a horse on softer ground. But still, I mean, to keep winning those races time after time, they're tough races over such a long distance. He's a great credit to that long distance division. Interesting to see where he goes now. I mean, he's obviously deserves a break. 1 or 2 people have mentioned the Arc for him. John Gosden's got an embarrassment of riches on that front, so I think that's unlikely. So we'll probably see him next in the Long Distance Cup on Champions Day. Hopefully in a rematch against Order of St George.
I'd like to see him in the Arc. I think he could run well in that. But as
they do these days, don't they?
Order of St George
did,
placing
and
it,
Westerner as well. So yeah.
Yeah, indeed. How did they react to Stradivarius's win in the Lonsdale Cup, winning the £1 million bonus? Tom Nugent, any fancy prices flying around for anything else later in the season?
No, just stayed 11-10 unchanged for the Champions Day Long Distance Cup, 11-4 bar. But what a training performance to take out that 4-timer and get the £1 million to the people who look after him and everything like that. It's not just the 4 days on the track. You have to keep that horse sound and ticking over for so long and keep them sweet and everything. It's some achievement and fair dues to them.
He may have exploited a relatively weak division, but you've got to give him the credit. Alpha Delfini, if someone would have told you he was going to win the Nunthorpe 24 hours before the race, Jimmy, what would you have said to them?
Yes, I think I remember backing against him in a race at Musselburgh at the start of the season back in April. He was beaten by some 108 rated horse. So, yeah, but that is a thing about sprinting. I mean, there isn't much between them, and if you get a sprinter that's in really good form on the day, they can suddenly improve from being, a really good handicapper or listed horse to being a proper, Group 1 winner. I have to say, I felt sorry for the connections of Mabs Cross and for the people who backed. I'm not saying anyone did anything wrong, but I mean, that
plenty
was
of the lads in the office backed her, I know that much.
Yeah, I mean, when the stalls opened, there's no way they would have been that closely aligned as they were at the line, and it's just a shame that it can't be a dead heat in situations like that. So, but there we are. I mean, it was obviously a fantastic race to watch. So, once again,
it was indeed. Tom, we've seen some big price winners in the Nunthorpe down the years. Soul Power won it at 100-1, Jawala at 40-1. Jimmy sort of touched on it, but for you, why do you think these races can throw up such strange results? Were you surprised?
No, it's York. It's nothing against York, but that's the history of York over the years since they re-turfed it. Was it after the Royal Ascot was there? There's been hundreds. There's been loads of big price. Look at the winners of the Ebor. I think before this, there was like 25-1 is the average price winner of the Ebor over the last 20 years. You look at it's just difficult ground for some horses to act on. I just don't think Batash can grab hold of the ground there. It's not the track's fault. It's nothing to do with the it's just a different surface to what they're used to running on, and some horses can't handle it. It's as simple as that, and consequently we get strange results there year in, year out, and we'll continue to. I also think there might have been I think because the way they use the ground at York, at the first 3 days of the meeting, they all come up the near side, don't they? I wondered whether he was running on the worst ground, Batash, by the end of the meeting. I think the better of the ground was probably up the middle. I think we saw that towards the end of the meeting. They switched going back to the far side, didn't they, in a lot of the races? And I wonder whether by the time Batash got to run on that ground, and Blue Point for that matter, I think they might have been on worse ground. And that is purely hypothetical. It might be completely wrong, but I think that is the reason why we get big prices. I think the ground is slightly shifty. It's nothing wrong with it. I know I get in trouble with York. It was the best meeting I've seen this year by Royal Ascot without a shadow of a doubt before anyone shouts at me. But I do think the ground can be a slight issue after a lot of racing on it.
Okay, very interesting comments there.
Hence the Ebor results. And if you look at the start of the week, everything was going to plan, wasn't it? By the end of the week, things turn a bit muddled, I always think.
Okay. Tom Nugent, were there any did Batash drift out for anything or any reaction on the bookies front?
No, Alpha Delfini got a quote of 25-1 first show for the Prix de l'Abbé. That's all that came out of the race.
Okie dokie. I believe Tangerine Trees, who's closely related to him, won that race, didn't he? So who knows? Maybe that could work out in the end. Okay, lads, so moving away from York now, there was some great action at the Curragh on Saturday and Sunday. First off, what did you make of 10 Sovereigns' performance?
So impressive. I just wondered whether he was a bit flattered watching it first time around, because I wasn't sure how quickly the rest of the opposition were finishing. But actually, you look at the time, it was a pretty good time. So, no, I mean, he's got lots of speed, being by no name never on the sire side, and a bit of stamina as well on the dam side. So really, he could be anything. We were all saying Aidan O'Brien's horses were out of form, but he certainly wasn't out of form. That was, well, if he was, what's he going to be like when he's in form?
He looked an absolute superstar. What price can we get on him for the Guineas, Tom?
For the Guineas, that's a great question. Come back to me.
Will do.
The point to make, Maddie, is that I think there's very, very few horses that get a top speed figure of over 100 on their debut. And 10 Sovereigns did that. Got 102, I think, from top speed. Now, I think that probably underestimates him a bit because it was by miles the fastest time on the day. And I think he's got to be Group 1 quality.
He was all out on his own as well, and to ask a 2-year-old to do that, it's a big task.
Well, it can be. It can be a help. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't like to put any emphasis on where he raced or what happened. All you can say is he ran very, very quickly on his debut, and he will be Group 1 class in the future. Whether it's Guineas class, whether he's just a sprinter, who knows? It looks to me like he might want to step up in trip. But I thought there were loads of really good 2-year-olds this week. Funnily enough, not many of them were at York. I liked Phoenix of Spain. I liked Emirati Anna a bit, but I thought the best ones might have been elsewhere. I thought Michael Stout's horse that won at Newmarket, Stragenius or something like that. Jimmy will remember. And I thought the horse that won the first race, Mount Everest, at the Curragh on Sunday is really good too. He's Galileo out of 6 perfections. The time was nothing like 10 Sovereigns, but he beat 2 horses with good form. Yonkers had been second to Anthony Van Dyke. G-Rex had run in group races, not beaten far in the Coventry Stakes. I think he was second home on the near side behind Calix. So the form there's pretty good. I think Mount Everest is the type of horse that is just going to improve and improve and improve. I think he'll end up running in the Derby next year. I have no doubt about that. And we have to mention, we're probably going to go on. I'm probably mucked up your running order, Maddie, but I thought Anthony Van Dyke was pretty good too.
No, you've helped me out big time. So the final thing I'll ask you before moving on to someone else, your number 1 sort of 2-year-old looking ahead to next season, Aidan O'Brien's, the ones you've just mentioned, who's right at the top?
Well, the one I've backed Anthony Van Dyke for the Guineas, but
Guineas?
I have, yeah. Well, he's the last two Aidan O'Brien horses to win this race. Well, not the last 2, but 2 of them were Glen Eagles and Churchill. And when we were watching Churchill at the time, we were going, oh, he's a Derby horse, he's a Derby horse. I think they're trying to make him into a Guineas horse, which is why they keep running him over 7 furlongs. His pedigree is of a miler. His dam is by Cedar and Excel. She's all at Australian speed. They think she'll stay 1.5 miles on pedigree. She's not certain to. So I've backed him for the Guineas. Having said that, I was very, very concerned to see 10 Sovereigns because I think in terms of speed and pure raw, Sovereigns would be ahead of Anthony Van Dyke.
Okay. Tom Nugent, we'll go back to you now. Any prices?
Right, 10 Sovereigns, 16-1 for the 2,000 guineas. Anthony Van Dyke is 10-1 for the 2,000 guineas, and Anthony Van Dyke is also our new favourite for the 2019 Epsom Derby, 10-1 at the top of the market, 14-1 bar.
Short enough at this stage, Jimmy. But again, who's your number 1 of the 2-year-olds looking ahead to next season?
I agree with Tom. I think Anthony Van Dyke looks a real 2,000 guineas horse. I don't think there's anything really in his breeding that suggests he's necessarily going to stay 1.5 miles. So I think that's the way he'll be campaigned. They'll look to aim at the 2,000 guineas next season. He's a real nice looking horse, nice long stride and him strong. So yeah, he'd be my number 1. I mean, I thought of the fillies actually. Skitter Scatter was very impressive over the weekend as well. I mean, I love her attitude. I didn't think the ground was in her favour at all at the Curragh. So not sure what her best trip will be. Maybe she's more of a sprinter, but I was impressed by her.
Jimmy, can I ask a quick question for you and Tom and Maddie? I'm sitting here every time I turn on my computer and look on the prices for these classics. I sit there and I think, why the hell is Pretty Pollyanna still 10 or 12-1 for the 1,000 guineas? She is miles ahead of all the other 2-year-old fillies with a likelihood of staying a mile. You look at York, you look everywhere you've been, you look at O'Brien's, and you're sort of sitting there trying to find. She is really, really good. Her time says it, her form says it. She's won a Group 1. Why is she the same price as Anthony Van Dyke, for example, who's not won a Group 1 and has done nothing on the clock to say that he's going, as good as her? I mean, I just sitting there and I'm thinking, God, I should keep backing her. I haven't done it yet, but I think I'm going to get round to.
You've got to, yeah. I think an element of it myself is that people are wanting something else to come out and beat it, but as you say, nothing is. Jimmy, what do you reckon?
Well, I wasn't that impressed by her last time in the morning. Pretty Pollyanna. Well, she showed a good. No, not really. I mean, she.
You're a harsh man, James.
Well, I mean, she did well to outbattle Signora Cabello, but I don't think, apart from that one performance at Newmarket, I don't think she's done anything utterly outstanding. Okay. So I'm not knocking her or anything. I just like to see a bit more of her. That's all.
I think if she was trained by Aidan or John Gosden, I think it should be 4-1 myself.
I agree.
Okay.
100% agree.
Okay. Before I want to move us on fairly swiftly, so I can ask a few of people's questions that we've had in this week. 'Cause some of them are brilliant. Yeah, there we go. But before I do that, little segue. One horse that you take from the whole of last week and put in your Racing Post tracker. Jimmy, go to you first.
Not particularly sexy, Mads, but one horse who did catch my eye was in the 2 mile handicap at York on the first day on Wednesday, Soldier in Action. He was completely outpaced, but he stayed on really strongly. I think with ground a bit slower and on a stiffer track, he could be very interesting for something like the Cesarewitch. So he was the one to note for me.
Well handicapped on old form. Tom Siegel.
I've remembered the name of Michael Stout's 2-year-old Sangarius, that one at Newmarket on Friday. He's a Kingman, and he's just like the other two, Calix and what's the one? King of Comedy. King of Comedy. His head's everywhere, his legs are everywhere. But he was backed as if defeat was out of the question. He was drawn in stall 1, which was really tricky for a newcomer when the stalls were on the far side at Newmarket, and he showed a really good turn of foot to win. Now, he looks funny. He doesn't run in a conventional style, but I think he's got serious ability. But
he's fast, and that's the main thing. Tom Nugent.
Yonkers, and not particularly kind of different, but Yonkers for me, winner in waiting, bumped into 2 very good ones the last twice, and has to be a winner in waiting.
Excellent, and as promised, just after this, we'll get some listeners' questions.
Check out Paddy's Rewards Club. Simply place 5 bets of £10 or more across any sport in a week, and you'll get a free £10 bet then next week. T&Cs apply. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.
Welcome back to this Monday Postcast. Now, I'm looking forward to this, putting the guys under some pressure with some last-minute questions. First off, Owen McCarthy asked, directed at Tom Siegel, but I think I'm going to make it towards everyone. Whose opinion from the Racing Post does he rate the highest when trying to find value in races, Group 1s and Grade 1s specifically? Who's the best judge? Who do you look up to most? And you can't say me.
I've been at the Racing Post for 25 years, and my mentor, and the one the person I always looked up to the most was Emily Webber. When I was growing up, I've always thought she's similar grasp of form and what is required to win big races as I do. It's just a similar way of thinking. Now, I'm not saying she's the best. She's done, Keels is obviously superb, and there's loads of other people, James Pyme and Rodders. They're all very, very good, but I like similar ways of thinking, and I think Emily would be my choice from that, just a little bit out of left field.
Nicely answered. And Jimmy, taking this, it doesn't necessarily have to be in the Racing Post as well, but who in racing do you look to and do you think is best?
Come on, Jimmy. I'm waiting.
Oh, well, I'd have to say Tom, wouldn't I? Otherwise, he's going to be shouting at me for the rest of the time of this recording. Yes, him, and I'd have to say Gerald Delamere as well. I'm always interested to see what he's got to say when I'm looking at a big race. He's very, very good at researching and stuff, so I'd have to put his name in the hat as well.
Okie dokie. Tom Nugent, anyone from the Irish sort of base?
Definitely not Paddy Power, anyway. not the man himself. There's a good few in Ireland. Obviously, if in the Racing Post particularly, I'm a big fan of Paul Keeley, and then in the wider racing media sense, Gary O'Brien is a shrewd operator. I'm a big fan of Gary.
There we go. Okay, moving on. Jacob Trotter says, should the European pattern look at the idea of making the best handicaps group races, as is the case in Hong Kong, Australia, and the USA? Tom. Siegel.
Yes. No. Well, I don't think they're going to have to worry about it next year with the Ebor, Maddie, because I think all the group horses will be running in it anyway. So
Stradivarius, could he go there?
It could easily go there. I think they'll all run. I think loads. I think winning your in is tremendous for the race. I think the fact that it's worth £1 million, I think you're going to get it's going to be 110, isn't it? All 110 rated stayers will be in there. And I think it will be just virtually like a group race. So, yes, absolutely no problem for me, provided, of course, it isn't one of those, it would be silly if a horse rated 80 could get group status from winning a race, but it'll never happen if the prize money's good enough.
Mm-hmm. And do you think we should try and do it with other races? Which divisions, which other races would you be looking at and saying that should be made a handicap?
I don't see any others, really. Maybe, you could say the Wokingham at Royal Ascot, but then you got the Golden Jubilee 2 minutes afterwards. So it has to be a race that stands on its own, really, for it to happen. And I think the only one we've got really is the Ebor.
Okay. Jimmy, anything to add on that front?
Yeah, the only other race I could think of, possibly the Stewards' Cup. you could
Yes,
maybe
yeah.
make that a
That's
group
possible.
race, because that's a big feature for Goodwood. Yeah, I mean, there aren't many of them that you could put in that sort of grade, but if we can get a few more, Ebor obviously will be up to that standard next year. It's got to be. It's got to be good for racing.
There's another question I'm desperate to ask, but before I do, Tom Nugent, any thoughts on the whole handicap group race?
Wouldn't. I think it's a rabbit hole that you just end up getting lost down. But definitely has to be some sort of merit in getting some sort of a black type accreditation after winning a hotly contested handicap. But then nicking third in a weak listed race somewhere else just gets you a black type and a pedigree as well. So there has to be some sort of balance. So.
I mean,
Okie dokie.
just going back to this year's Ebor, Maddie, it was similarly. We were on the way already, aren't we? When we had proper group horses, Muntahar's a proper group horse, isn't he? Weekender's a proper group horse. They've all been running in group races. It seems to me that Muntahar probably put up his best ever performance. So if he had a Group 3 on the back of winning that, I don't think anyone would be complaining, would they?
No, okay. The other question I wanted to ask, as I mentioned at the top of the show, I'm very much excited for the jumps now. No doubt I'm going to get lambasted for that. But a jumps horse that you're most excited for seeing. Blimey me. Jimmy, I'll go to you first.
That's easy for me. Footpad.
Footpad.
Definitely.
Easy done. Tom Nugent, you can't say Blackbow.
Keep talking, Tom. Keep talking. I've got to think of a jump horse.
Okay. Well, there's two pointers that made an awful lot of money in the sales. That'll be very interesting to see how they go. One of them is Envoy Allen, who won a point-to-point in Ballinamulla and made £400,000 sterling, and the other one is Deloro, who made £410,000 sterling that Joseph O'Brien bought. So they'll be both very interesting to see how they turn out, probably in bumpers this season.
So no established stars for you then?
Well, Blackbow's going to be pretty good, isn't he?
Of course he is. Tom Siegel, come on, what are you grumbling about? What you're not...
Trying to think of a horse, Maddie. I'm trying to think of a horse over jumps.
Lorena? Sam Crow?
No.
Bit of the paper about him today?
Nah, not worried about Sam Crow. Presenting Percy, we like him. Definitely like him for the Gold Cup, without a shadow of a doubt. I love Mike Bite. Always will love Mike Bite. Can't wait to see him. Not sure Kempton really suits him, so I wondered if he might get beat in the King George. But Duvan is the one horse I cannot wait to see. I just thought his comeback in the champion chase, the way he was travelling, I just think he's just different from all the other horses.
What happened when he got beat by Undersow at the end of last season?
I don't know. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. He'll come back. I think it'd be interesting to see him in the King George too, wouldn't it? I mean, have him and Mike Bite and Waiting Patiently and all those ones in there.
Some crack.
What about Undersow and the King George, Tom?
I keep saying it, but they don't want a bar of it, do they? I spoke to Tom's mate Patrick about it loads of times, and they don't seem to want to go down that route. So that's fine. Look, they keep winning brilliant races with it every year, so that's no problem. But I would love him to see him over 3 miles. I think it'd be just a sight to behold.
Absolutely love Undersow. Got to be one of the most underrated jumps horses we've had for some time. Anyway, that'll do for the listeners' questions for today. Hopefully we'll get some more for next week. Thank you for your contributions. Finally, just to end on, is there anything running this week that you're keen to back or keen to look at? There's Group 3 action at Tipperary on Thursday, and also at Sandown on Saturday, the Solario and the Atalanta Stakes. Tom Nugent, have you got any tips for Tipperary on Thursday?
I see Yulon Gold Fairy is entered up in the Group 3. It'd be very interesting to see how she runs. She won a listed race over in Galway, and she seems to be progressive enough. So it'd be very interesting to see if she is a certain runner. I'm not sure yet.
Okie dokie. Tom Siegel?
Well, I love the Solario Stakes, Maddie. We saw the Derby winner win the Solario Stakes last year. I think it looks a really, really good race.
Who's going? I know Arthur Kitt was muted.
Too Darn Hot, which is Lati Dar's brother, that won on his debut. There's Arthur Kitt, the Chesham winner. You've got Confiding. You've got Dunkeron, who ran very well at Goodwood. Probably went too fast. Beatboxers in there. It looks just like a really, really good race. As good a 7 furlong race as we've had this season.
And who will you be backing?
Well, I probably won't be backing anything, but I'll be very interested to see Too Darn Hot myself. I thought he showed exceptional ability on his debut.
Okay, Jimmy, final word over to you.
I was going to mention Too Darn Hot. Very exciting colt from the family of Lati Dar and Daremi and all of those. And I think he's also won this before with Kingman and Ravens Pass, John Gosden, so he obviously sends his good ones to the Solario. Also El Astronaute, I think he's been one of the stars of the season. Got to mention him. fantastic victory at York. He's entered in the Beverley Bullets, so it'll be interesting to see if he can notch another win this season.
You've got to think he'd be up to sort of group class, haven't you?
You're close to it, yeah. I mean,
think so.
he's tremendous, isn't he?
Easily up to group class, has to be, doesn't he?
Anyway, that should about do it for today. Thanks for joining us. And if you enjoy these shows, make sure you rate, review and subscribe to them on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes or any other platform you're listening to us from. We'll be back on Friday and we'll see you then.
Follow Paddy Power on Snapchat. The username is ThePaddyPower, and we promise there won't be any boring snaps about gigs, the weather or the gym.